Thank you, Advancement Courses, for sponsoring today's show. Stay tuned for how to save 20% on online professional development. Mary Ritter Beard, the American historian, said, "Certainly travel is more than the seeing of sights. It's a change that goes on, deep and permanent, in the ideas of living." Vicarious learning happens when you connect with students as you travel. I've connected to students going to India and China and Hawaii and so many other places. And it really does empower a world change, a life change. And I found that my students are a lot more likely to try to travel just because of connecting. Well, today's teacher on our I Love Teaching Week talks about this transformational practice. In episode 438, this is what happens when you teach from Antarctica.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today, we're talking with teacher Donnie Piercy, who is fresh back from Antarctica, where he went there with National Geographic. Now, you'll recognize him from episode 127 about simple virtual reality in the classroom with Google Street View, and we will link to that in the show notes, and also that he had authored an awesome book on Google Cardboard. So, Donnie, tell me a little bit about the trip you took to Antarctica.
Yeah, so it was part of what's called the National Geographic and Lindblad Expedition Grosvenor Teacher Fellowship program that they have. Basically, once a year, they kind of open up this application process where teachers can apply for this fellowship. And Nat Geo ends up selecting about 40 teachers to kind of travel to these unique places around the world, like Antarctica, the Galapagos, Svalbard, or up in around the North Pole area. And, the idea is it's meant to be kind of like the professional development of a lifetime, a chance that as a classroom teacher we would never get the chance to do otherwise. And I was very fortunate that they selected me to travel with two other educators to Antarctica for about 2.5 weeks. So I actually just got back about a week ago.
Okay, and we're recording this in December, and hopefully we'll air in January. Now, was this just you going, or how did your students benefit?
Yeah, so that's kind of the tough question. After I got the fellowship, part of it is that I have to, not only go, but then figure out, okay, how can I get my students involved in this? And, Antarctica from where I live in Lexington, Kentucky is about 12,000 miles away to the part of the continent that we'd be traveling to. So I had to sit down and think, okay, what can I do? So, while on board, I knew that I would have access to a lot of National Geographic and Lindblad expeditions, photographers and naturalists and explorers and people who, travel around the world and kind of see what it has to offer for a living. So, one thing I did was I had my students do some high quality research online to find out a little bit more about the Antarctic continent and then come up with some good questions that they wanted me to answer. So I had them record those videos and pop those into a Flipgrid. And then it was kind of fun. While I was down there, I actually played those videos for some of the naturalists and photographers, and I actually got them to, address my students directly and then answer their questions for them. So I was able to post those in, those responses back onto it, so that way my students can actually see their questions being answered by these explorers in Antarctica. So that's just part of it.
Oh, that was fantastic. How did the students feel when they got responses from scientists and photographers?
So it was definitely really cool, right? Because one, they knew that I actually went somewhere, that I wasn't just taking 2 weeks off. But secondly, it kind of helped them connect to a place that they would never have a chance to go otherwise. And it also, a lot of them, they had further follow-up questions. And a lot of the naturalists have been great. They volunteered to actually do some Skype calls into my classroom that we've got scheduled a little bit later on this year. And even a lot of them have started to develop some great connections with the continent. And, living in Kentucky, the second that I got down there, I realized that Antarctica is pretty much the exact opposite of Kentucky in just about every way. So a lot of them had no idea just kind of what this environment was like and what the landscape is like. And the questions that they came up with were very, some of them were a little bit simplistic, but at the same time, this is not a place or a type of environment that they would pretty much know anything about. So it was definitely a learning experience all around.
So this is vicarious learning. Albert Bandera talked about it in some of his research, that very often we learn more by watching those that we know go somewhere or do something. Did you make any mistakes? Was there anything you thought you could do that you didn't get to do?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went into it with such large plans. Like, I did, by the end of it, I ended up taking about 3,500 photographs, a whole bunch of videos just of me kind of sharing what's going on. And my original plan was to kind of post a video to YouTube a day, and, like a 5 to 10 minute clip that I would then send to my students real time. And about 2 or 3 weeks beforehand, it kind of occurred to me that there's no Wi-Fi in Antarctica, at least not that's a bit strong. So that the second I got there, I realized that while I was able to post some videos into Google Classroom for the students, it took a long time to upload just like a 15 to 20 second clip. So I quickly scratched that idea. And instead what I've been doing is just kind of slowly, just kind of as the weeks have gone by, just kind of gradually sharing some photos and videos with them, really trying to tie in this experience to all the different content that I teach. Because as an elementary school, like 5th grade teacher, I teach all subjects. And the nice part about an expedition like this one is there's lots of different ways that I can tie it into all subjects.
What's the impact on your students? How do you feel like they have changed with you going to Antarctica?
Well, I think a lot of them, and the whole idea behind the fellowship is one to give educators like me just kind of a chance to have the experience of a lifetime to help, like change us as educators and people. But the larger purpose of the program is to kind of put what National Geographic calls that explorer mindset into the students that we interact with on a daily basis. And, for a lot of them, just seeing that naturalist answer a question for them on the Antarctic continent, or seeing some of my photos where, they're seeing me kind of talking directly to them while there's a colony of Gentoo penguins behind me. For a lot of them, they said, oh, we want to go there too. And that's kind of the whole point behind the Grosvenor Teacher Fellow program. It's to give students a chance to see something like this, but to let them know that this isn't just something that, can happen to me as they grow up, as they start to learn more about the world around them, that it's not just something that they, have to experience through a YouTube video, or even, as much as I love virtual reality, through VR. While that's definitely a neat experience if you can't go, the world around them is something which they should be exploring each and every day. And a lot of them, actually all of them in some way, shape, or form, have really started to develop that explorer mindset.
I love the explorer mindset. Did you shoot any 360 videos?
I did. And I brought my 360 camera down because, again, while my students weren't with me, I wanted them to just kind of see what part of the expedition was like. So as I went, I just tried to record just simple 30-second to 1-minute clips. I did some while traveling through the Drake Passage, which is everything that I thought it would be and more. Some, were just me kind of walking around while I had glaciers surrounding on all sides when we were on these little Zodiac boat rides coming up right next to them. And those are all posted on YouTube. I can definitely send you just some of the links just so that way I know some of the listeners can see what it's like.
Well, I'm all about 360. And sometimes if we go there in 360 VR, we're ready to go there in RL, real life,
That's true. Very true.
Okay, so teachers, we need to teach the explorer mindset. I know when I've traveled to China or India or around the world, Dubai or South Africa, I took my students with me. So you can teach your students from wherever you go. Donnie taught from Antarctica, and you can teach on your travels too. It does develop an explorer mindset. And Donnie, I think I want to use that term. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Start off the new year strong by planning your professional development with advancement courses. They offer over 200 online graduate level PD courses in 19 different subject areas for K-12 teachers just like us. And because they're online and self-paced, you can take them anywhere and anytime with up to 6 months to complete. The courses are available for graduate credit through CAEP and regionally accredited university partners or for continuing education units that meet your state requirements. They're a terrific way to get your PD done, and the courses really focus on creating practical products that you can use in your classroom the next day. Right now, my listeners and blog readers can save 20% off each course with the code COOL20. That's just $120 per graduate credit hour or $160 for 50 clock hours. So go to advancementcourses.com/coolcat and learn more and use the coupon code COOL20. Never stop learning.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.